Thank you for tuning in to the network's webinar on Communication Starts With You. Myself, Brooke Andrews, and Liz Lanez will be discussing communication tips that you can take back to your center to use with your team. Today we'll be discussing how to refresh the understanding of communication, how to enhance our interdisciplinary team member skill set, how to decrease negative patient and staff interactions, and how to encourage open communication and dialogue between dialysis center staff and patients.
To do so, we have to break down what is communication. Communication is a process where we transfer signals or messages that are either written, nonverbal cues, or spoken words, and it is how we build relationships and establish connections with others. Ways we can communicate are engaging with our perceived audience, making eye contact, having self-awareness of what kind of messages your body is sending, speaking clearly, slowly, utilizing good listening skills to show that we are caring, not making any snap judgments or assumptions, and requesting feedback when closing the discussion to be sure that you've understood clearly what has been said.
Listening. Listening is one of the most important aspects of effective communication. Effective listening can make the speaker feel heard and understood, which can help you build a stronger, deeper connection between you and the person you're speaking with. It'll create an environment where everyone feels safe to express their ideas, their opinions, and feelings, and they'll be able to plan and problem solve in creative ways. Self-awareness will always help to avoid miscommunication. It'll save us time by helping clarify information to avoid conflicts and misunderstandings. And it'll relieve negative emotions. When emotions are running high, if you're feeling that you've not been heard, it can help calm you down, it can relieve negative feelings, and it can allow for real understanding and problem solving to begin.
Nonverbal communication is important as well. The way you look, listen, move, and react to another person tells them more about how you're feeling than words could ever do alone. Patients and other staff or even family in the facility are going to be watching for your facial expressions, your body movements and gestures, how you hold yourself, your eye contact, even your tone of voice or how you're breathing. Use of nonverbal signals that match up with your words help to convey the message that you're trying to send. Nonverbal communication should reinforce what's being said and not contradict it. If you say one thing, you want to make sure your body is matching. You may also have to adjust your nonverbal signal according to the context. You can use body language to convey positive feelings even when you're not necessarily experiencing them. Keep in mind, too, that a lot of our patients may be touched by hearing loss, cognitive delays, or even be patients who have English as a second language. So they may require special attention when trying to engage them in communication, and they may also be paying special attention to your nonverbal communication. So they may require some extra support.
We all know that stress and conflict are just two of the many things that we deal with in our units. Stress in small doses can help us perform under pressure, but when it becomes constant and overwhelming, it can hamper our effective communication. When we know how to remain relaxed, aware, and communicate effectively that something is upsetting us, you can remain emotionally available and engaged. Stress and conflict continue. Managing and resolving conflict requires us to have the ability to quickly reduce stress and bring our emotions into balance. You can ensure that this process is as positive as possible by sticking to the following guidelines. Listen for what is felt as well as what is said. When we listen, we connect more deeply to our own needs and emotions and to those of other people. Listening not only strengthens us, but it informs us and makes it easier for others to hear us when it's our turn to speak. We want to make conflict resolution a priority rather than winning or being right. By doing this, we'll maintain and strengthen the relationship between our patients and our coworkers and staff and family. Rather than winning, we should always make sure that communicating effectively is our first priority. We want to be respectful to the other person and their point of view, and we want to focus on the present. If you're holding grudges based on past resentments, your ability to see the reality of the current situation will be impaired. Rather than looking to the past and assigning blame, focus on what you can do in the here and now to solve the problem. One thing I always recommended when I was a social worker in the clinics was if you have a especially difficult patient or you're dealing with a difficult coworker, or even in our daily lives, family members, partners, whoever the person, whatever role they play in your life, remember to check yourself. Take a deep breath. Give yourself just a moment to reflect before you go into the situation, and go into the situation with a positive attitude. That'll help strengthen it.
Conflict resolution guidelines continued. As Brooke was saying, you kind of have to pick your battles. You go in with a clear head and a clear goal that we're looking for the best possible outcome. Be willing to forgive. Resolving conflict is going to be impossible if you're not able to forgive or to find some kind of resolution. That resolution, if it lies in the urge to punish, it's only going to add to the conflict. And we have to know kind of when to let something go. If you can't come to an agreement, you have to agree to disagree. It takes two people to keep an argument going. So if a conflict is going nowhere, you can choose to come back later and resolve, take a break, step away, and come back to discuss or to work out a compromise. You can also see some more ideas linked in the DPC, the provider manual, at the end of this presentation. So what should healthy boundaries feel like? Boundaries in a clinic setting and in greater life shouldn't feel like there's any guilt when you say no. People should be able to accept when others say no. That can mean in a variety of settings. The people involved should be feeling like they can communicate and discuss their wants and needs freely. They should not feel the need to anticipate the needs of others. They should be acting in alignment with their beliefs and their values as long as they're safe, and they should feel safe to be able to openly express themselves, their concerns, and have those conversations. When a boundary is violated, there tend to be comments or remarks that are made to find offensive or threatening, sometimes including people's culture, ethnicity, or their identity. There may be violations when there are sexual comments or touching. There may be boundary violations when there's episodes of stalking, following, or uninvited involvement into someone's personal life. Offering gifts can be perceived as bribery or as unneeded pressure. Personal relationships, such as dating or social activities, buying or selling goods of any kind within the clinic setting, offers of employment, giving, receiving, or loaning money. We'll go a little bit further into the different kinds of boundaries that you'll find in the clinic setting.
So patient-to-patient boundaries, they should look like being respectful to our fellow patients, encouraging and supporting one another, and allowing patients to express their thoughts to each other appropriately. Nobody knows what they're going through like they do for each other. Patient to staff, we want to make sure that patients are having appropriate conversations. They're treating staff with dignity and respect. They're asking questions for clarification if they don't understand something. And we want our patients to feel safe to discuss any concerns with staff members. Staff to staff, we want to make sure that you're respecting each other. You're not discussing patients in front of other patients. And we want to make sure that our conversations between each other are always appropriate, because we never know who's listening.
So as we bring this presentation to a close, again, thank you for your time. It's important that we talk about what our personal considerations and biases may be in the clinic setting. We want to make sure that we are actively listening when patients are engaging with us and we're meeting them where they're at. We want to make sure that we're thinking about what's in the words that we're using. My perception may be different than your patient or your other staffer. We want to think about access to phones and transportation and the shame and stigma that can come from patients asking for resources. We want to think about when it's important for the social worker and the FA to be involved in a case if there are some concerning communications that are raised. We want to think about cultural interpretations and how it may be, again, a perception of one thing for one person and another for another person in one setting. And we want to talk about assuming and making sure that we're asking the questions not to be nosy, but to get a better understanding, to clarify, and to make sure all parties are on the same page. So what to do when communication starts with you? These are some best practices that we have seen throughout different cases in correspondence with the network. These are just some ideas when communication is not going how you have maybe thought it might with a patient, and some ideas on how to get back on track.
So go into the conversation calm. Monitor your body language. Make sure that you're hearing the other person out of respect for, make sure that you're hearing them out for respect of their experience. Stay focused on the topic at hand. Name specific areas of concern. Validate where you agree. Most importantly, take your time and truly listen. Acknowledge any wrongdoing, prepare to compromise, and create a plan.
Here are some phrases that we have taken note of that you might find helpful in discussions with patients where communication hasn't really gone like you thought it might. These are helpful in one-on-one meetings to try to get that clarification that we need. Phrases like, this is a normal reaction to what's happened, or I see what you mean, have you tried this? This must be very hard for you. Meeting the patient where they're at and giving them that grace. It makes a lot of sense that you feel this way. How can we be a better support when you're feeling like this?
These are some resources that the network has, and we're happy to email them to you. There's also links provided with them. The Decrease in Patient-Provider Conflict Manual, 2 specific resources in that are the 6 steps to resolving conflict and tips for diffusing anger. And then we've also included websites for each network, along with additional support and information from the National Kidney Foundation.
Some ESRD community resources that could be helpful in topics that relate to communication are touching base on access plans for different languages, using the Home Dialysis Central for better education, tapping into vocational rehabilitation resources, tapping into resources with your local council on aging, utilizing the education from Senior Planet. If you need some help with some training ideas, we have linked out some presentations from the American Kidney Fund on relationships, professionalism, and very lastly, we have some resources from NAMI, the mental health organization, with some infographics that can be helped with staff training as well.
We've also included some scholarly articles for you to browse at your leisure. Thank you for taking the time to watch our webinar. As always, the network remains available to assist you with any patient and facility concerns that you have. Please feel free to give us a call at the number listed below for patient services or the toll-free patient line. We thank you and hope you have a great day.
Thanks all.